Somebody once told me I lost the end of this case. It took 11 projects to find. Here we go. Hey everybody, this is Vdiffuser. Oh boy. I never actually realized that I never uploaded the final bit of this case. So, yeah, here we are, about maybe a year and a half later. Sorry about that. Well, I got a ruler and everything. Luckily, this will not take that long. It really won't. This is the tail end of the case. Now, the real thing is, I have to remember how to play, and remember what voices I gave everybody. Joyful, jubilant, jumping jacks! I remember you. Oh, Mr. Natsume, I'm so pleased for you. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, and non-locum judicial assistant Miss Mikotoba Esquires. Now finally, at long last, there can be proof. Proof that I'm innocent, and proof that my tea is innocent. Ah, good morning, my dear fellows. There you are, Sholmes. Herlock Sholmes! May you drink my tepid tea and fall forever silent! I thought the tea was innocent. I thought so too. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you came! How wonderful! Please, save your derision. I know what you're all thinking. Good morning, he says. And it's nearly time for luncheon. Your scorn is written very clearly across your faces. Nobody said or thought anything of the sort. The truth is, I was determined that today would be the day. As sleep seduced me last night, I thought. Tomorrow, for once, I shall not oversleep. I'll rise early and be present in court to support my companions. Such spirited determination has a beauty of its own, does it not? Oh yes. And then I began to muse on the subject. Why do people oversleep, I queried. Why time after time do they make the same foolish blunder? And the answer came to me at once. It's so delightfully simple. People oversleep because they sleep. Well, is that not an astute insight into the matter? Yeah, and the sky is blue. Oh yes. Upon which realization, I attempted an experiment. I didn't sleep a wink all night. The results? At first light, I was exhausted and began to be assailed by fits of drowsiness. Shocking. And so the conclusion of last night's experiment is this. A good night's sleep is quite simply essential. Again, and the sky is blue. Yes, I think most of us probably knew that already. What others presuppose, I prove by experimentation. That, my dear fellow, is the scientific method, which we will be examining next case. Very, very thoroughly. Ah, yes, and one more thing. Do you remember this? Yep, sure we do. It's the poison Miss Green was about to drink at the hospital yesterday. Oh, you didn't manage to... It was a laborious task as the bottle was near empty, but such inconveniences do not hinder Sholmes. I managed to confirm that it contained strychnine. So I was right. Perhaps, though of course such circumstantial evidence doesn't prove Miss Green's guilt. I shall leave the bottle in your care now, but licking the inside of the neck is not recommended. Of course not. We still got rest of the game to go through. And Renosuke is supposed to be an ancestor of Phoenix Wright anyway, and I'm gonna be going through that next year. Could I have a word? Oh, hey, Gregson. Gregson, how good of you to come. Excuse me. Wait a minute, Inspector. I wish to make a nuisance of myself. From the look on your face, I'd say it's someone else who you think is making a nuisance of himself. And knowing you, it's probably the truth. My dear Inspector, please speak freely. Pretend that I'm not here. Believe me, if I could do that, life would be a whole lot simpler for me. You have the results, Inspector, of the investigation of Mr. Shampspeare's room? Not yet. Shouldn't be long now, though. Now I'm here about something else. That dead convict, actually. Oh, you mean the man from this newspaper we discovered yesterday in Mr. Shampspeare's room? A man by the name of, Selden. I went through the archives of the yard and dug out the fellow's foil. There's something in there that... that caught my eye. Something caught your eye? What, Inspector? What? I'll copy out the relevant parts for you, so you can read it for yourselves. Thank you. Capital offender's file has been entered into court record. These documents include the details that were in the newspaper cutting we found in Mr. Shampspeare's room. I'll rearrange everything in the court record so we don't have duplicate information. Why are you giving us a copy of this important file, though? Well, you're the ones who turned up the clue in the first place, aren't you? I'm just making sure things get handled in the proper fashion. Oh, Scotland Yard's workings are so wonderful. Indeed, my dear fellows, and the Inspector here is a shining diamond in its crown. A shining diamond in the rough, maybe. Look, I just don't want to be beholden to a lawyer, that's all. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Let's see, examine. Investigative findings related to Selden. 18 counts of burglary, 6 accounts of suspected murder. Yikes. Died of natural causes while in prison. His final moments witnessed only by his cellmate. He's estimated 1,000 pounds worth of loot he stole remains unrecovered. Manchester Strangeways Prison announced the death of convicted murderer and burglar Selden by natural causes in the early hours this morning. He'd been suffering with fever since the end of October. Alerted by the shouts of his fellow cellmate, medical staff arrived to find him already dead, before his capital punishment could be carried out. Let's see. This is the poison we've been hearing so much about. Strychnine. There are a few remnants on the bottle here. Look. Mustn't be tempted to try it. Of course not. As long as we don't lose this trial. No! Even if we lose the trial. We mustn't lose the trial in the first place, Mr. Naruhodo. Make your mind up, Susato-san. Let's see. That should be all of that. Court proceedings are about to resume. Make your way to the courtroom at once. It shouldn't take long. Well, I shall leave you then. I'll be listening with interest from the public gallery. Not nodding off at all. Certainly not. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. I'm rather tired of seeing Mr. Mustache in floods of tears, personally, so best of luck to you. Welcome, student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire! Yes, Mr. Natsume? It's time, isn't it? Yes, this is it. Miss Olive Green and Mr. William Shampspeare. Oh, God, I remember my voice for him, actually. This is going to be the final battle. Only the final battle of this case. Trust me. The real final battle, that ain't going to be for a while. I won't really have saved Sosuke-san until I've exposed the whole truth of everything that's been going on. It's all coming to a head now. You can do it, Rinosuke. You have to. Alrighty, Old Bailey courtroom. Here we go. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session now. Behold, before the recess we heard a most startling accusation from the defense. Namely, that the victim of the case we heard here only a few days ago is the true perpetrator of this incident. A reckless, rash, and prejudiced charge of wrongdoing, in my opinion, my lord. However, the prosecution has tried to extend every courtesy to the amateur newcomer from dubious eastern shores. Thank you for that backhanded consideration. Yeah, that's gonna be the video. No, actually, I don't think I found No, actually, yeah. I think that is my, my icon for this video, because it took so long for me to actually realize I lost the footage. A rather cold assessment from the Honourable British Prosecutor, I must say. So, Lord Van Zeek is the new witness present and ready to take the stand. Ready and waiting in the witness's antechamber, my lord. Very well. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in. There they are. And there you are. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court, please. William Shakespeare, my liege. For mine occupation I can say only that I be a tragic victim, to be pitied. Currently unemployed, in other words. I'm Olive Green, a fledgling artist. Well, no. Not fledgling, really. A hopeless failure who's too weak-spirited to admit she has no talent, I suppose. Also currently unemployed, in other words. Ouch. What a coterie. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Mr. Shakespeare, my lord, I am thy humble servant. I'm afraid that you're no longer merely the victim in this affair. The possibility has been raised that you are in fact the assailant intent on taking the life of your fellow lodger. The part you have played in this whole business will be thoroughly scrutinized, I assure you. I would for naught else, my lord. And Miss Green? Yes? You're aware of the reason you have been summoned to this courtroom today, I presume? Yes, the officer did explain. He said I poisoned this ridiculous buffoon. And, do you accept the charge, Miss Green? I don't know anything about any poisoning. And I don't know anything about this man. Come, lady! Die to live! Verily, I know not thy prickly, pea-pigmented personage. Very well, let us proceed with the matter at hand. That being to ascertain whether or not Miss Green has any involvement in this affair. It's all very strange indeed. Why would you suspect me? I barely ever go to the East End anyway. It just so happens I passed by that neighborhood 6 days ago, that's all. And on the night this man was poisoned, I was still in hospital, fighting for my life. Yes, having been unfortunately caught up in the incident on the street outside the Garadev household. An incident that rendered you unconscious for some 3 days. I was struck in the middle of my back by a knife, through no fault of my own, and now I'm under suspicion? What other relevant things might I be suspected of? It's all very disturbing, really. Ain't it? Your energies may be better spent worrying about random knife attacks, I feel, Miss Green. At this point in time, all that appears to connect you with Mr. Shakespeare's lodgings is the Briar Road incident of 6 days ago. That's why we would like you to testify formally now about exactly what happened. I know. He said 6 days ago. You mean you want me to relive that awful accident? Unfortunately, yes. Please tell the court what happened that day. And of course, we will be interested to hear from you about your movements that day too, Mr. Shamspear. But what happened 6 days ago has nothing to do with me being poisoned. Let us proceed then. The witnesses will present their formal testimony to the court. On the subject of the incident that took place on Briar Road the evening of the 17th of February. Witness testimony. It was 6 days ago at about 4 p.m. I was walking along in the snow when I suddenly was stabbed in the back. Coincidentally, it happened to be just outside the house where the men in this case had their lodgings. I was at the tavern of the eve in which thou speakest, for I bespoke my supper. It was the first time I'd been in such an area. I had a little matter to attend to, that's all. Anyway, I was admitted straight to the hospital, so I knew nothing about all this business. Yes, the second incident inside a week at what I believe to be aptly described as the haunted lodgings. One can only presume this is a most unfortunate coincidence. Meanwhile, you say you were not in your room, Mr. Shamspear? 'Twas the following morn when I did awaken that I learned of the dire events. Mary, what a commotion did the officers of the law make on the floor above mine! When Soski's son was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. I suspected there is nothing connecting these two witnesses but happenstance. It's true, it does seem as though they are unrelated at first glance. We know better, though. I'm not sure. There's something in the shadows here, I'm certain of it, and this is my one and only chance to expose it. Counsel, you may now cross-examine these two witnesses if you wish. Yes, my lord. Alrighty. Blah, blah. Not that. Not that. Alright, we press the statement. What little matter, Miss Green? Please elaborate. There's nothing, really. It's not worth mentioning. If you remember, you mentioned it to us yesterday at the hospital. Ah. It was related to the card you were holding. Miss Green! From memory, I believe the card contained a note that read, I've information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Who was that matter? This has nothing to do with Duncan. Oh, what have you got?
Excuse me.
Mr. Shamspear, do you have something to share with the court? To be or not to be? That is the question. Ah, pray forgive me. The great Bardsworth springeth from within me with ne'er a thought. Don't tell me. It's because you're possessed by Shakespeare's spirit, right? Granted, if you were possessed by Shakespeare, you'd have to have gone bald. Hearing Ms. Green's words a moment ago seemed to make you think of something. Something of relevance, perhaps? Nay, sire, 'twas nothing at all. Presumably you know the name, though, right? Mr. Duncan Ross, I mean. After all, you were both lodgers in the same house. I would it were so, but sadly nay. Lodging may be a lonely occupation, sire, but flogging fellows be rarely known to me. So you haven't heard of him. even though he passed away in the room just one floor above yours. Miss Green? Me, my lord? Have I done something wrong? The card that was mentioned before, containing the note, do you have it upon your person? I do, yes, but I don't need it anymore. In fact, I should throw it away, really. Before you dispose of it, the court will take it as evidence, please. Alrighty, we got this, and we now know that's what links him together. Examine! This envelope's been ripped open rather carelessly, hasn't it? Miss Green strikes me as the type of person to open correspondence more neatly than that. Ah! What is it? The way the envelope is torn, I'm almost sure I've seen the exact same shape somewhere else. Oh, you don't mean... Were you thinking of this piece of evidence, Mr. Naruhodo? Exactly, that's it. Try to match them up. They're exactly the same. They go together perfectly. The torn off end of the envelope clearly belongs with this card. The envelope fits with the torn off piece found at the scene of the crime. There we go. Alrighty. It's Duncan Ross. No, continue your testimony, please, Miss Green. Anyway, I was admitted straight to the hospital, so I knew nothing about this business. I was at the tavern at the eve in which thou speakest, for I had bespoke my supper. Let's see. I said press. A tavern, you say? Which one? What's the slug and salad where I did tarry? 'Tis a jewel in the East End. And a little unexpected, I feel. What do you mean, Lord Van Zeeks? A slug and salad offers unusually fine dining. For the locality, at least. Not an establishment you'd expect to be patronized by a man with not even a crumb of bread in his room. It's true. The menu lists premium crusts of bread and glasses of water, in different levels of cloudiness. I would have expected Grub's Grubbery in the local vicinity to more appropriate for your means. Watery soup and mushy peas, or rather, soupy water and pea-like mush. All equally appetizing. I just wanted to try some water in a different pub for once. What's wrong with that? How different can water really be? Trust me, you'd actually be surprised. Or perhaps there's a more plausible explanation. The specific reason. He dined at a place that he wouldn't normally does stand out. I wonder if we have some evidence. Yeah, we got some evidence now. If we tried to do this earlier, we would do, not at the moment, but now, we actually have evidence. Mr. Shampspeare. Yes, sir! On the day in question, is it not the case that you visited the Slug and Salad, a place you don't normally patronize? For a very particular reason? I don't know what you're talking about. Pray, if thou hast some purpose, speakest. Very well, I'll present the court with evidence. Evidence that explains why you had to be at the Slug and Salad that day. Namely, Mrs. Green's card. Oi. I believe this card reveals the answer. Good lord! Miss Green's card, you mean? Let me fix my toupee. That's right, my lord, it reads, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. Mr. Shamspear, your actions on the afternoon of Miss Green's stabbing are exactly as described in this note. Personally, I find it hard to believe that's a coincidence. Don't you, Mr. Shamspear? Well... Excuse me. Can I say something? Yes, Miss Green. That card was delivered to me. It doesn't have anything to do with this odd man, does it? Well, you'd think so, yes. But, my lord, may I? May you what, Miss Green? I'd like to make something very clear about that card. Very well, then, you may amend your testimony to include details about the peculiar note. The note was delivered to me at my address. It has nothing to do with the odd man here. 3, 4, 5. Oh, really? Present. Yeah, I don't think so, buddy. The day before the incident, exactly 1 week ago, this note was delivered to your address. And upon carrying out the instruction in the note, you found yourself in the hospital. Yes, I did. It's terrible, everything that's happened to me. Yes, it is terrible. If it's all true, that is. What do you mean? Miss Green, have a look at this, please. It's the torn-off end of an envelope. Oh, is it? And it so happens that it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the note you read. Well, where did you find that? In Mr. Shamspear's room. Hey, in my room? Mr. Shamspear, do you perhaps remember this note from somewhere? Your actions that afternoon followed the instructions in the note to the letter. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. And so that's exactly where you went. Hey! Let me ask you again, Mr. Shamspear. You already knew about this note, didn't you? And you, Miss Green... What'd I do? At this torn-off end of the envelope proves... The note was originally in Mr. Shamspear's room. So how is it that it came to be in your possession? I don't have the first idea. I'm just a fledgling artist after all. There is only one explanation. You broke into Mr. Shamspear's room and stole it. You did what? Sorry. That's what? You broke... they were in my room. What on earth do you want with me? It would seem that both witnesses need to testify again. Miss Green? Yes? Whilst you have the court's sympathy, I'm sure, for the suffering you've endured in recent events, anyone found to be given false testimony in a court of law will be duly punished. Please bear that in mind. Yes, I know. Very well then, witnesses. You will give formal testimony again now. On the subject of this curious anomaly regarding the note Miss Green seems to have received. Alright. Normally I would cross-examine all of this, but I'm on a bit of a crunch, so I'm not going to. I don't want to have an hour-and-a-half video. I do remember now, 'twas a week ago, peradventure, the note was delivered unto me. On the day writ therein did I tarry a long hour at the slug and salad, yet nobody came. Thereafter on the evening I shared the company of the Japanese fellow. I did see the note had vanished. I don't know what you mean. You think I snuck into this man's room, do you? Why would I? I can point out the bill in here. And as for that torn up piece of envelope, I don't know anything about it. You now claim to have received this letter, do you, Mr. Shamspeare? Faith, 'tis so, my lord. And I would swear to have set it upon the table in my humble lodgings. Yet, 'tis clear to me now that since I returned from the tavern that night, I have not laid eyes upon it. Well, that being the case, young lady, it would be your testimony was a lie. Is that what you think? How unfair of you to think I'm the one lying. I beg your pardon? I'm just a fledgling artist, as I said, and fledgling artists don't lie. A note was delivered to me at my address. Besides, we all know the law around here is. That's true, Miss Green. How do you explain the facts? This part of the envelope was, without question, found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. I don't see why I should explain. Sorry. I'm a fledgling artist. My job here is to say what happened, that's all. It's your job to give the explanations and the proofs. You, the fledgling lawyer. The fledgling will do his best. Evidently, in my learned friend's cross-examination is our only hope of learning the truth. Well, counsel? I'm ready, my lord. Let's get started. There can be no question that she broke into his room, and that's how she acquired the note. The two facts are starting to lead me to a possible explanation for all of this. That's not a pretty one. Alrighty. Statement 4. Strychnine. Now, don't examine that. Yesterday at the hospital, we saw you with this bottle. And though the contents spilt during the course of our meeting, a small quantity remained. According to the defense's independent analysis, Mr. Sholmes' chemistry set, the liquid that was still in the bottle was identified as strychnine. What? Strychnine? The very same poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare. Ah! Miss Green, you broke into this man's lodgings for one reason and one reason alone. To cover the end of the pipe that feeds the gas lamp in Mr. Shamspeare's room with poison. Look at it over there, he's like, really? Can this be? You broke into my room to... It may seem incredible to the court, but from the remaining clues, there's only one logical conclusion we can reach. The person who attempted to take Mr. Shamspeare's life with poison was you, Miss Olive Green. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dearie. Ooh. Ow. That. Ooh. Order! 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 Counsel, are you seriously suggesting this woman put poison on the end of a gas pipe with the intent to kill? Yes, my lord. There's no other way to explain the facts. But Miss Green did indeed set this odious trap 6 days ago, and the victim had put his mouth to the pot that very evening as we expected. The attempted murder would have happened 6 days ago, surely. Well, that's a good point. Perhaps not, my lord. I beg your pardon. There was a significant police presence in the area that evening on account of the incident on Briar Road. Local residents were being interviewed throughout the night as part of the ongoing inquiry. A circumspect criminal would likely have chosen not to carry out any wrongdoing at that time. Lord Van Zieks. And of course, the following morning there was more activity at Mr. Shamspeare's address. More activity? Oh yes! You mean his fellow lodger, Mr. Natsume, being arrested on suspicion of murder. That's right, and as the defense has already proposed, Mr. Shamspeare was meddling with the gas in the pipe for the very sinister reason himself. To cause the gas stove in Mr. Natsume's room to go out, thereby asphyxiating the occupant. But once Mr. Natsume had been arrested, his room was under constant surveillance by the police. In the circumstances, Mr. Shamspeare had no reason to blow air into the gas pipe. His intended victim being in a prison cell. With the need to tamper with the gas removed, the poison on the pipe lay dormant. And then, 3 days ago now, the situation changed again. Right! Mr. Natsume's trial, which took place here at the Old Bailey, came to an end. A trial in which the man stood accused of stabbing Miss Green in the back, but was duly acquitted. That resulted in Mr. Natsume returning to his lodgings for the first time in 2 days. And in that very night, his gas stove mysteriously went out, and Mr. Shamspeare was mysteriously poisoned. In conclusion, the poison that was present on the mouth of the gas pipe had been put there in the victim's room some 4 days earlier. Oh, Mary! With that new understanding, it becomes clear this letter was all part of the plan. What plan? The court will recall that the note gave instructions to visit the Slug and Salad at 5 o'clock, and that the recipient should tell nobody else. The reason for those instructions are now clear. To ensure that the lodger would not be at home at the stated time. To make sure I wasn't home? Exactly. While you were out, Miss Green could safely slip into your room, knowing she wouldn't be disturbed. You mean to say that letter was written by Miss Green, yes. And in order to cover her tracks, she took it away with her when she left. Just after she smeared poison over the mouth of the gas pipe in your room. I forgot she was on a crate. Order! Order! What do you have to say for yourself, witness? Miss, who are you? Why did you try to kill me? Miss Green's motive should be obvious. It's all tied up with someone whose name we've heard several times already during the course of this trial. So, that's what's behind all this. Mr. Duncan Ross. Which person is behind the woman's motive for the attack on the victim's life? It's Mr. Duncan Ross. Duncan Ross! That's right. Before the defendant, Mr. Natsume, took up residence in the lodgings at Mr. Garadev's, somebody else was renting the room. Mr. Duncan Ross. I knew I'd heard that name somewhere else. It was all over the papers a month ago, when the man died in strange circumstances at the haunted lodgings. That does ring a vague... Ah! Of course, yes, I remember now. The young man they claimed was strangled by the convict's curse or some such. Sadly, my lord, it wasn't a curse of any kind, nor was it an accident. The man died as a result of Mr. Shamspeare blowing into the gas pipe and causing gas to leak into the room. It was murder, plain and simple. Hey! Well, what do you know? The world is so unfair. Curses, curious deaths. That's all people care about. if it's an interesting story they want to know, it doesn't cross their minds that real people are involved. And once they're bored, just 1 month later, once the story's lost its appeal, everyone's forgotten it. You mean you... Duncan was... Mr. Ross was Miss Green's fiancé. Fiancé? You may not have known until now who Miss Green really is, Mr. Shamspear. But she's known exactly who you were all along. Because you're her sworn enemy. The murderer who took the life of the man she was to marry. Mary! Miss Green, is it not the case that in order to exact revenge on Mr. Shamspear, you smeared poison over the end of the gas pipe? Isn't it all quite extraordinary? Am I correct in my understanding that you now accuse me of both parties, counsel? Each on different counts of murder? Yes, my lord, that's correct. Objection! Inhaling so deeply, it appears my fledgling learned friend has taken a lungful of dubious gases, causing his judgment to be clouded. What? Why would Mr. Shamspear have wanted to kill these lodgers, as you say? You've completely failed to provide a motive to substantiate your accusation against the man. Yes, that's right, Mr. Reaper, my liege. I've been slighted. 'Tis lies, all lies. I deny every utterance. And you'll have to forgive me, Mr. Naruhodo, sir. But I don't intend to admit to anything either. Miss Green, I'm sure you'll think I'm being very rude, but I'm not going to be sent to the gallows for the likes of this scoundrel. You broke into the man's room. If you didn't do it to smear poison on the pipe, what was your reason? I thought I'd have a look around, that's all. Sorry. You're right, I suspected him. So I thought perhaps I might find some evidence of something in his room. Evidence that it was him who took Duncan's life. Oh, vileness! Oh, villainy! Oh, tyranny! Oh, rotundity of women! Okay, that one was crossing the line. But in any case, whenever I leave my room, I do turn the key in the lock. The whole place is falling apart. The locks on the doors are no different. Duncan showed me once how to unlock the door, with some tips and a piece of wire. Oh, awfulness! Oh, awfulness! Oh, tyranny! Oh, profanity of... Oh, come on. We will consider your trespassing on some future occasion, but for now... Tell the court what you found, what evidence your search revealed. Well, I spotted a note I'd sent in lying on the floor. When I went to pick it up, I noticed something. One of the floorboards was loose, and underneath it, I discovered a secret hiding place. Hey! Yeah, we discovered that hiding place also. Inside we found a newspaper cutting, a photograph, and an empty tin box. Yeah, well the thing is, when I found it, the box wasn't empty. What? There was something in it? Yes. This rather nice key. What? What are you doing with that? What the... Every ounce of color's drained from his face. Give it here! Give it to me now! It's mine! I inherited it! What was that, witness? What did you say? You inherited it? What's all this about? He inherited it. It was obviously important to you since you'd gone to such lengths to hide it, so I took it. I know what it's for, but you took something precious from me, so I took something precious from you. So what if it means you can't open something now? I don't care. Give it back this minute! Give it to me! Calm yourself, witness. So Mr. Shamspear has tried in one case succeeded to take the life of 2 lodgers now. His motive for doing so is the key to everything that's happened. It's true there appears to be no motive to support the accusation against Mr. Shamspear, at first. But considering everything we know now, I think there is actually something that could explain it. What? Ow! I need to recall every piece of evidence at our disposal. Alrighty, let's go. Because I'm sure I just caught a glimpse of the link that runs through all of these events. What is the proof? The capital offender's files. Gotcha. That's an official police report, is it not? The Selden file? How'd you get a hold of that? Is it Selden? Right now, the now sadly Mr. Deceased Mr. Ross and the defendant Mr. Natsume have only one thing linking them. The fact that they had lodgings in the same room. Well, yes. Well, we noticed, certainly. A room that was formerly occupied by Selden. Until, that is, he was arrested by Scotland Yard for his involvement in multiple burglaries. I see. And it so happens that the convict Selden left behind one very substantial mystery when he died. The some 1,000 pounds worth of loot he stole, which as yet remains to be found. Oh yes, of course! It's coming back to me now! It's written in this file here. 1,000 pounds lost en route to hell. That was how the papers summed it up. And it seems that one particular fellow inmate was with this convict in his final moments. It's not hard to imagine Selden entrusting that inmate with his most closely guarded secret. The location of the stolen loot, and perhaps a key to unlock whatever container the valuables were in. You mean this key is... Mr. Shamspear, it was you, wasn't it? You were at the capital offender's side when he died, were you not? What are you talking about? 'Tis a false charge, I tell you! A false charge! The name of the inmate who was with Selden at his death isn't noted in the file, but a simple telegram to the prison where he died would quickly tell us how false the charge really is. But even if it's true, why would the men be so intent on killing every subsequent occupant of the convict's lodgings? There's only one explanation for that, my lord. He was in that very room that Selden hid his loot. So, it all comes out. Yes, and having established that, all of Mr. Shamspear's subsequent actions start to make perfect sense. When he was let out of prison following Selden's death, he made immediately for Mr. Garadeb's lodgings at the home of renting Selden's old room. However, the retired army man was able to offer him the accommodation of his choice, because Selden's old room had already been let to somebody else, Mr. Duncan Ross. Which is why Mr. Shamspear subsequently devised his gas-based plot to kill the occupant of the room. And when he was successful, he presumably intended to inquire about switching into the newly vacant room. However, a certain jittery someone had beaten him to it. Mr. Sosky Natsume, the defendant in this case, no less. Yet you decided to use the ploy with the gas again, didn't you, Mr. Shamspear? This time to oust Mr. Natsume. All for one simple and avaricious reason. To get your hands on 1,000 pounds of loot left behind by the dead convict. You... Hey! Looks like I'm gonna snuff it before they get to stretch me neck. Listen, I want you to have me loot anything to stop the coffers getting their mitts on it. It's hidden in the room where I was lodging when they got me. Here, this is the key. Always stay one step ahead, mate. See you in hell, I guess, Shamspear. It's mine. did he just say? It's mine. That loot is mine. Oh boy. Mr. Shamspear? It's all lies. I don't accept any of it. Why should I? After all, you don't have a shred of evidence. You can't prove I killed that fellow. Forsooth, I'm the victim here, remember? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? If I don't admit to it, there's nothing you can do. You can't arrest me, for the time being anyway. Verily, you can't arrest the victim, can you? Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I'm so close. I just need a few more hours. I swore to myself that I'd get my hands on it, and I can almost taste it now. Do you really think I'd just give up? There's no question in my mind now. This man is guilty through and through. I seem so utterly intoxicated by the idea of that loot. I'm afraid however hard you press him, he'll never admit to what he's done. There is a way. No! He's already committed the most heinous crimes to get his hands on that loot. Which means all we need to do is find it first. A fine plan. Were it not for the fact that the police thoroughly searched the room following the death of Mr. Ross. If it's there at all, it must be very well hidden indeed. Without conclusive evidence, I certainly cannot rule. If only there was some way we could find the convict's loot quickly. This is the final piece of evidence. My lord, can I go to the bathroom? Yes, counsel? The defense would like to make a proposal about how to find the late convict's hidden loot. I believe we are already in possession of something that could give us a clue to its whereabouts. I'm not gonna say it. It's our last chance. This has to be a gamble. We've used the same technique once already, and it paid off then. Let's hear your idea. What do you propose we use? Handprints on the wall. If I'm not mistaken, those are Mr. Shamspear's handprints on the wall of his lodgings. That's right, my lord. Exposed as a result of the defense's independent investigation of the scene. Based on a wonderful new discovery in the field of forensic science by the great detective Mr. Sholmes. A great detective? Is that some kind of joke? You really think I'm going to be daunted by a man with such a ridiculous title? I should think the great Bard ought to recognize such a title when he hears one, Mr. Shamspear. Perhaps we should compete for the honor of most ridiculous title. Ah! It's Sherlock Sholmes himself! What are you doing here, great detective? Your usual haunts are the filthy back streets of the capital, are they not? Ah, Mr. Reaper, it's been too long, and I see your complexion has worsened since we last met. Mr. Sholmes? He does know Landvenzieks then. Well, enough to say something like that in any case. Mr. Sholmes, though you may be heralded as a great detective by the population at large, it does not give you the right to come and go in my courtroom as you see fit. If I may, my lord, Mr. Sholmes' newly developed scientific method has helped us to uncover vital clues in this case already. Clues, you say? I call them skin prints, my lord. My method identifies every location touched by an individual under scrutiny. It's the method by which we were able to ascertain this gentleman's gas pipe activities. Hey! You need only a small sample of something the individual has previously touched to make an indicator solution. In your case, sir, I used the teacup you had been holding. Elementary. So now, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. What am I to use as a sample to make the indicator solution this time? Okay. We need to present a person. You could get a achievement if you present Sosuke Natsume, but I'm not gonna do that. The powers of reasoning appear to be on the up. Which person do you have in mind? Olive Green. Miss Green. Hi, me? What do you want with me? The key around your neck, if you please. Sorry. The key belonged to Selden. There will be remnants of secretions of the man's skin on its surface that we can use. Very true. That is the sample we need. Using it, we can create the indicator solution required for Mr. Sholmes' skin print seeker. And find out what Selden touched in the room that he used to rent. Hey! Mr. Shamspeare, as one great to another, I assure you, if the late convict's hall is hidden somewhere in his former lodgings, I shall uncover it in no more than 30 minutes. So, Mr. Shamspeare, the truth is well hid within our grasp now, and as such, you will never get your hand on Selden's stolen wealth. In that case, I'll gladly let Mr. Sholmes have this key. No! Give it to me! The detective shan't have it! It's over, Mr. Shamspeare. No! No! You're out of options now. There's only one thing left for you to do. Admit your guilt. Whoa. O shameful spear! Despair! Be thy name. Ooh! Ow, that was a crotch shot. I never intended to kill the man. I just wanted to drive him out of the room. That's all. So you'd have time to find the convict's haul of stolen goods? Yet after you killed the young man, you still didn't move into the room. I asked the landlord, of course. I pleaded with him, but he refused. Why? I was 3 months behind with the rent, for one thing. Mr. Garadeb has had a lot to put up with, and Bait and Kaitos finally got, downloaded. Nice. And he had the gas repair work done immediately afterwards, putting the room out of action for a while. And then, this Japanese man swooped in just the right time to sign the new lease. Or Mr. Natsume. What unfortunate timing. But 5 days ago, after the incident on Briar Road, when the Japanese fellow got himself arrested, I thought I'd finally have my chance. But it wasn't to be. No, the scene was sealed off and guarded by the police night and day. And if I remember rightly, Mr. Sholmes spent the whole day in there reading books. I couldn't even enter the room, let alone search for the loot. Which is why on the day Mr. Natsume was acquitted and returned to his room, you once again tried your trick of blowing air into the gas pipe that feeds the stove into his room. Unbeknownst to you, however, that action would lead you to a deadly trap. Now, William Shakespeare, how does it go? To be or not to be? That's the question. From Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1. Well, let me tell you, in your case, it's not to be. That is the answer. You deserve to die for what you've done. There goes the sound. At first, I really did think it was just a terrible accident. I'll never forget our conversation the night before Duncan died. The gas supply in my new lodgings are a complete disaster, you know, Olive. The gas supply? Yes, the stove always seems to go out in the middle of the night for some reason. That's no joke. They say it's a convict's curse. Oh, Duncan, please, don't stay there. I don't care how cheap it is. Alright then, if that's important to you, I'll start looking for a new place. There's spare rooms at my house. Why don't you leave that horrible room tonight? No, I better not. We said we'd wait until we graduated before we told our parents, remember? But that was the last time we ever spoke. That very night he fell victim to the gas. If only I'd known what was going to happen. I'd have insisted he left that horrible room that instant. But instead, all I've been left with is bitter regret. I stopped going to school, but something kept drawing me back to the house in Briar Road. I saw a stooped, eastern-looking man with a mustache climbing out of the house one day when I was there. He walked up to the Grub's Grubbery for some food, so I followed him, and sat myself down next to him. He had some watery-looking soup, and started to pick a quarrel with a publican. The place is cursed, I tell you! Cursed! The ghost of that convict who used to live there is trying to suffocate me! I wake up in the middle of the night, freezing to death because the stove has gone out. The room is full of gas and I can hardly breathe. The pipe's been checked, no problem there. It's like, I'm the problem! That's what they're thinking! But how could that be? Duncan was gone and now this man had almost suffered the same fate. Could it really be a curse? Then I remembered a rumor I'd heard about how the gas companies go about investigating the gas installations. A rumor? Oh, you mean... Yes, everybody's heard the stories, it seems, about how they go around checking the pipes. How anything connected to the gas can be extinguished by blowing air into the pipework. That's when it started. A little flicker of doubt in the back of my mind that just wouldn't go away. Was it really an accident, though? Once I'd had the idea, it wouldn't leave me alone. It plagued me night and day. So I bought this, at one of the black markets of the East End. A black market? I've never been. I just heard people talk about them. And you really can't buy anything you can think of there. In some ways, being able to get my hands on this so easily made me even more determined. I had to find out, one way or another, was Duncan's death an accident, or was it murder? And the chosen method for establishing the truth was simple, but highly effective. Smear poison on the gas pipe you suspected the man of tampering with, and wait. Mr. Shakespeare was innocent, nothing would come of what you've done. But if he was guilty, he'd pay for his crimes dearly. I'll find out the name of the man I suspected, William Shakespeare, and then I wrote him this little note. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Dry Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody about this letter at the meeting. It's a matter of utmost importance. If he'd done it, I knew it would worry him enough so that he'd be sure to go. So I waited to see if it worked. And of course, Mr. Shakespeare followed the instructions to the letter. I worked out where the gas pipe was right away. So I smeared a good amount of the poison I bought all around the mouth of the pipe. All the time praying the devil's work wouldn't be done, and it was all just some wild fantasy. Actually, now, all the time praying that the devil's work would be done, and that the culprit would get his just deserts. "3 days ago, when you first stood in the dock before me, the whole affair seemed relatively straightforward. Yes, my lord! I certainly never imagined the depths of depravity that would subsequently find lurking behind the scenes. It has been a long road, my Nipponese friend. Yes. And one I certainly didn't envisage walking with you. Nevertheless, together we have reached the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. Miss Green." "Yes, my lord?" "You will henceforth be stripped of your freedom, as punishment for the attempted murder of Mr. William Shakespeare." "Yes, I know." "And you, Mr. Shakespeare, you will be tried for the murder of Duncan Ross in cold blood, and the subsequent attempted murder of Mr. Sosuke Natsume here in the present." "Mr. Naruhodo?" "Yes?" "Yesterday, at the hospital, when you and your friends stopped me from ending your life by drinking what was left of the poison bottle, I wasn't myself. I can't even remember what was going through my mind. To be or not to be, I suppose. That's a question that's so hard to answer, it seems. Well, personally, I'm glad of your being here, Miss Green. And I'd like to believe that it's been a blessing that Mr. Shakespeare didn't die when he ingested the poison. For your sake, at the very least. Oh, because of you, I chose life, not death. And now, you've made the truth come out at last. Really, I can't thank you enough. Oh, Miss Green. Mr. Sosuke Natsume. Yes, my lord. The court declares that you are exonerated from all blame in this matter. Accordingly, I would call upon the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to present a verdict of not guilty. We're in full agreement, my lord. In that case, I hereby declare the defendant not guilty. Man, there's got to be a lot of gunpowder smell in there. Court is adjourned. Yes, yes, at last. Divine justice duly done. I'm going to stay at the YMCA. Wait, that hasn't been made yet. Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there were any divine justice in this world, you would shave that mustache. No! This has nothing to do with my mustache! Some say a luxuriant mustache is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Sholmes. Welcome, student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire! Once again. You've saved me from doom! I'm very happy to have been able to help, Mr. Natsume. Congratulations on your acquittal. You're second in almost as many days. I was first acquainted with and gained affection for English literature whilst in our great homeland empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only, the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet here. In the end, I confined myself to my room and lived life through friendly old books. You had such a difficult time, haven't you? Ah, but a week ago now, I dragged you out of that dark, dingy room of yours, did I not? You did, and I've seen more of life in this week than in all my years to date. And for the first time, I feel I've begun to see the true face of the English that's so far been hiding from me behind the wall of fog. My dear fellow, there's nothing special about the true face of the English, as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in the world, humans are human. A few genuine differences. Yes, I think you're right. I finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I've worked out why I was attracted to English literature in the first place. It made me see that wherever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We're just doing our best to live. Well said, I've come to feel the same way. I know what I have to do. I'm going to cut short my study tour here and return to Japan. I'm leaving this place. Bye-bye. What? Just when we'd become friends here in England. What a terrible shame. Oh, I know. That does tug at the heartstrings. It really does. I decided I'd like to take everything I've learned here in Britain and write something of my own. A novel of sorts, I suppose. Yeah, he sure is. He's going to write I Am a Cat. And it's one of Japan's most famous novels. So you'll be creating your own literature, Mr. Natsume. How wonderful! And it's also the source of why Morgana in Persona 5 uses the pronoun wagahai. Oh, well, no, I mean, I wouldn't presume to call it literature! Yes, you would. Why not? When that is precisely the definition, Mr. Mustache. I suppose you're right, yes. Well, in a way, it will be literature. But as of now, all I know is I'd like to try my hand at writing. I have no delusions of grandeur. I, for one, would love to read your work. Well, all things considered, it may be for the best. After all, you've once again emerged victorious. From a battle with the Reaper. That's very true. And there is no salvation for a person in the dock when he's the prosecutor. We know what really happened. I am recording this after all of that. The desire to return post-haste to the perceived safety of your homeland is one I quite understand. My goodness, yes. Fate was such a terrifying prospect. Nobody would consider that cowardly, I'm quite sure. But that's not why I'm leaving! I mean it! Objection. Oh god. And that was the same case we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago now. Sosuke-san did indeed return to Japan and submitted a report about both cases to the government. It was on reading that report that Professor Mikotoba was prompted to visit the scholar. And barely any time later, Susato was given the news that she must return to Japan as well. On the back of the telegram stating falsely that her father was gravely ill. The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial on the following day, that we uncovered the loot hidden by the now deceased convict in his former lodgings. Well done, Mr. Sholmes. To uncover the secret hiding place in just one day. Wasn't that supposed to take 30 minutes? I believe I told you, my dear fellows, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations. Would you agree, Gregson? I lost a bet and now I gotta eat like a parrot. Gregsy's been happily munching an agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley. Happily? I think humorlessly might be closer to the truth. So, it transpires the man fashioned a hiding place in the ceiling. What is the loot? Let's look then, if you're ready. The burglar's hand. What's that? It's a collar. A jewel-studded collar. We know where this goes. A collar? It's huge, though. Look at that gemstone set on it. I can see why it was claimed to be worth 1,000 pounds. Perhaps I could have it as a belt. Have you noticed the inside there? There's some blood stains on there. You don't think they could be blood, do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it. On second thoughts, perhaps I won't have it as a belt. And of course, there's this emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown. What does it signify, do you think? Oh, I noticed that. It's very fancy. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, you know. Oh, hey, my friend's online. Rev's online. That's enough of that, I think. What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes? All the color's drained from his face. Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, oughtn't you? It could be valuable evidence, after all. It must be kept safely under lock and key. Ah, yes. Get your grubby hands off there, you lot. Hand it over, now. I've never seen a collar that large before. All those jewels look to be extremely valuable. But that's not what stood the most to me. At least not once I noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of the collar, those stains. Could they have really been blood? Oh, that was a funny case, wasn't it? It's all buttoned up now. And you look very pleased, Iris. I am, because I was starting to wonder what I could use as a basis of this month's story in the magazine. But this case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating. We're talking about the latest implement of the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, I presume. The mystery of the knife and the mist, and the mustachioed men and a convict's curse, perhaps. I could make it a two-part story. I can't wait. A word, please, Iris. Yes, what is it, Hurley? I'm sorry, but you can't write about this case. It's out of the question. Because we know why. Why not? It's a great case. Then I shall have to insist you limit yourself to the first of your two titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear? Yes.
And so it was that the second of Soseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity. Now, looking back, I feel I understand. I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen. For it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that events began to unfurl again, with an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London.
There we go. And with that, we're done here. Sorry this took so long to get, folks. With this, I will see you guys next time when we jump a few hundred years ahead. And, we jump a few hundred years ahead into Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. Or rather, that'll be what I'm doing in the day now. Next in the Let's Play will be the third case. Sorry about that. Cheers!